Today's December the 7th, and I've got Mac McCoin going to be here in a few minutes, and he needs no introduction. It's going to be a great discussion. Looking forward to it. I had lunch with him about 2 weeks ago. It's going to be great. What was it like your dad being a doctor?
Well, my father was a doctor. I thought I probably would be a doctor.
So his dad was a doctor too? Your dad's that? Oh.
And before that.
Golly.
But in Gainesboro, Tennessee. But my father came to Cleveland at the end of World War II. He had landed on Omaha Beach on it was the most casualties in the war, and he was a captain in the Army Medical Corps and had just come out of the Depression. Did a residency in New York City, but he landed on the first wave, and he said the boat circled for hours and hours. The weather was bad. And that was the most casualties of any day of the Normandy invasion. Omaha Beach was the worst one. Went all the way through, was at Bastogne when they were frozen in and trapped. And then he came home, and my mother and him were looking for a place to set up medicine. And they went to several towns. The government gave them a list of places that needed doctors. And Cleveland was, this area, rural Tennessee, was in that part, and they liked Tennessee. So they stayed at the Cherokee Hotel, and they looked around, and they told him if he would locate here, they would give him certain equipment, which was expensive to buy because he had set up several field hospitals as the military advanced forward from the invasion, treating wounded people, soldiers mostly, and a lot of Germans. And one thing was an X-ray machine, which was expensive. So they gave him this surplus equipment. He decided to set up practice here, and he went to the local bank and talked to George Thurgood, and he said, "What kind of collateral you have?" And he said, "I have this license. It's really amazing." He said, "Well, you're going to need that." So anyway, he loaned him $6,000. And a few days later, he was one of his patients. So that's how I got here.
George was his patient. George Thurgood was his patient. Yeah.
They were good friends. Small town.
Yeah.
It's a very small town.
I knew George. Not George.
We knew Buck. Buck
I knew
Thurgood
George.
was
I
his
knew
son.
George went to my church. Had that birthmark.
He did. Yeah. He was and Buck Thurgood was a little older than me, but he.
How? Let's see. So what year would that have been? 45, 46?
When the war ended?
Yeah.
I was born in 46, so he came home about 45. He stayed the full. They kept him there a long time. Mm-hmm. He went over on a ship with all the Atlantic Ocean submarines and all that, but they flew him home. And I think they landed in Newfoundland or somewhere like that, and then New York City, and then came home. So,
do you remember him having any, what they call today, PTSD or anything like that from the war? I mean, that was a real bad one, I'm sure.
The only thing that I think bothered him in the war badly, and really badly, they were requested because he was a doctor. He came home as a major. He was a captain on the landing, but they had to go to a concentration camp. And he said they were ordered to go help the people. And he said the Germans had just left the concentration camp. And the people in there, they were supposed to try to save them. And he said, when people are that emaciated, you can't just feed them food. You have to feed them with feeding tubes. And he described what he saw, and it was really bad. And I think that did bother him. You know, I think it did.
But no.
No, he didn't have post-traumatic stress syndrome. They called it shell shock back then. You know, the same thing probably. But he really didn't talk about it often. But I was studying history a little bit, and I asked him about it, and he did go into detail about it. And I won't go into the great detail about it on this program because it's really unpleasant.
Yeah.
But
Where did he open up his first office? Was that on Worth Street?
Yes, it was the First Baptist parsonage for the original First Baptist church that I think they call it. Allen has named it Pango Hall, and this is the evolution of things.
Yeah.
And it was different. It had a porch and all that. And my brother George and I have it now, and sort of it's semi-dormant law office. Well, I still have my license. He still has his, and my wife still has hers, and my son still has his. Of course, he's young, has his. But that was where he had his office, and he had a policy. Back then, doctors got paid like people get paid today. If you hire a mechanic to put an alternator on your car, and you know him real well, he might let you make payments. People just made payments. So the insurance wasn't the big thing then. And people would bring food, hams, produce, and run up a really big bill sometimes, but they would always pay a little on it because they wanted to maintain the relationship.
With the doctor, yeah.
Yeah, and he always had a new doctor live upstairs. He lived upstairs first, and the medicine's on the first floor. And then there's several other doctors here. I think Dr. Prophet and Dr. Lowe came in, and another doctor would live upstairs.
They were like interns? That's your early version?
No, they were ready. Hell, no, Dr. Lowe graduated. He was a fellow of the Mayo Clinic, had a residency there. I mean, but you got to remember, he came from Birchwood and did not have a lot of money. And so he told me his mother made him 2 suits. And he got a scholarship to, I think it was Milligan College, because he sent his Jimmy and Tommy, his sons, there. But anyway, doctors helped each other a lot, get started. No competition, there weren't enough of them. It wasn't like they're going to take business away from me. There wasn't, all of them were worked hard. I learned to drive going on house calls, and I'd get in a 53, 55 Chevy Oldsmobile. My father liked Oldsmobiles, and he'd let me sit behind the wheel and drive when we were on a dirt road. And he went all the way up into Polk County, different places like that, and made house calls. Or a lot of people, there was no hospice back then. And sometimes he would say, you have to stay outside because somebody here has tuberculosis or something contagious. So I'd stay outside. If it was daylight, I'd play with all the animals because everywhere in the country, and usually I had 7 dogs once because my mother said we had too many dogs because the people would give me, I'd pick the one you want, and I'd take one home. So, and we lived in the country then. What was
Where did you live? Where was the country then?
Well,
that you
it's
lived?
not country now. We lived on North Lee Highway.
Where George lives now?
Yeah, where George lives now.
So that's where you were.
Yeah, we had a little farm there.
Yeah.
And next door was Dr. Truitt. And then up the road, a little bit later, was Dr. Lowe's house. And I rode horses every day.
Mm-hmm.
I hunted, I fished every creek and stream. And I really had a good childhood there. And I'm glad George is living there.
What'd they call you? What'd they call your dad besides Mr. McCoin? Was he Joseph or
They
what?
called him Joe.
Joe.
A lot of other doctors did. Yeah.
Wonder why you didn't go into medical. Nobody did they?
No, George would be the most capable. My sister has a PhD and lives in Florida.
Why do you think George would be the most capable?
I don't know. Don't ask me that. He's got a master's degree also.
He's smart, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very smart. He can read a map better than anybody.
Was he always like that?
Yes, he was salutatorian at the day school and missed being valedictorian by a very fraction of a point. Mm-hmm. My father always wondered about that. But I was the black sheep. I'm the one that probably took, I came in the middle, and I was the first son, so I had a really good time here in Cleveland, and it was a good time to grow up.
Who'd you run with in early on?
Well, I had a lot of friends. I graduated in '64. Bob Johnson was in our class. He went on to play football. Mm-hmm. Jim Hesser, Walter Austin, I talked to yesterday. He went into the Air Force and then became a college professor, taught at the Air Force Academy. I had Robert Herndon. He's a lawyer, and he's got a degree in chemistry. I did like chemistry a lot, and I kind of took just about every chemistry course they had. I was pretty good in chemistry, and I liked literature. But you asked me the question to other people. It's a large class. At that time, I think Bradley was one of the largest high schools in the state. And the year before, they'd been state champions and so forth. The athletics were very big. But Randy Ty was in that class. He's retired now. He was managing counsel for Troutman Sanders in Atlanta. That's a law firm that handles Southern Company, CNN, this huge company, international company. So we had some people there that did fine.
You say you enjoyed literature.
Oh, sure.
What type of literature?
Oh, me? I liked writing.
Like Dickens and...
No, actually, I liked Jack Kerouac, On the Road, the Drama Bums. That era of Ginsberg, I liked that era of literature quite well because I think I grew up on the edge of it, not old enough to be in it, and I found it fascinating. And I think a good writer ought to experience a lot of life to be a good writer.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're just making things up. And those that write from a personal point of view usually do the best work. And otherwise, it's very abstract and sterile.
Yeah.
So, but I like that era. I love F. Scott Fitzgerald. And I think Somerset Maugham, The Razor's Edge, if you read it and understand it a little bit, I feel like sometimes I'm reading something and it's almost autobiographical in a way, like maybe I have been there before in some way, some small way, some small part. And it gives you insight and you have a little catharsis. You suddenly, it's like an epiphany. You realize I'm not the only one on the planet.
Right.
That felt this way. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way, but you're right. you can, if some good writing about an experience can take you there because of an other experience you've had that was related to that.
That's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
It's verbal, but you are writing, because if they made a transcript of what we're saying now.
Yeah.
And before writing, this is the way things were done anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People gave oral histories. And that's what you're doing. You're documenting history. And I'm a very tiny part of it, and you are as well.
Sure.
But people will remember this now because it is written. And so it is written, so it is done. If I may quote Harold Robbie.
Yeah.
So it is. I mean,
Yeah.
This will last long after us.
And a lot of times I think that if you, what I like capturing is people's personality, not necessarily what they're doing today or what they're doing tomorrow, but the personality. Because if you can capture the personality, you can know what they'd do probably in another situation.
I think you're correct. Personalities are very important and very. I feel like I don't have much personality in many ways because I'm sort of introverted.
But that is your personality.
Well, it is, yeah. But, yeah.
You know, do you think that personalities shape how we even look at things? I mean, I look at something this way and I see that because that's my personality, but you look at something and you see it a different way because you've got a totally different personality. And from that aspect, we almost can't judge what the other person's doing.
I don't judge anyone. I remember our new Pope, I'm not Catholic, but I respected very much. They asked him about diversity, and which is so controversial now. And he said, "Who am I to judge? And who am I to judge? Mm-hmm. And who are you to judge?"
I don't even know all the questions, much less the answers.
Correct. But the questions are maybe more important than the answers, because if you look at Socrates, the Socratic method was to answer a question with another question. So when you answer a question with a question, it makes you skeptical. And I think skepticism is a very important part of a person's makeup as far as their intellectual capacity and their ability to analyze things, not only risk, but life in general. Mm-hmm. And it makes you more appreciative of the stable things you have in your life.
Well, that's exactly right.
And the stable things in my life, my family, health is not stable. I was in a terrible car wreck, and I can't walk very well anymore. I walk with a cane, but my balance is bad. I can still drive a car and things. I'm not trying to get too personal, but skepticism is very important.
I'm Socrates, just answering a question, though, with another question. Was he ever going to get to the answer?
That's the important part of the Socratic method.
Or the downfall.
There is no answer. The answer is the question.
Is that what Socrates was trying to say?
Yes. And, the Greeks took Socrates, and they finally decided that he was creating unrest and, I think he drank hemlock. But anyway, but he's the foundational things, Aristotle and Socrates and Plato, foundational thought basis that we have in our philosophy. But I still...
what was Aristotle's? I think that I lean more towards him.
If you want to talk, let's go forward.
Okay.
Let's talk about Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche.
Well, now that's really forward.
It's in the 1890s.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want to be?
A lot of people do talk Nietzsche. But don't you think Nietzsche...
A lot of people where?
A lot of people, a lot of philosophers or people like us, they talk about Nietzsche, and I agree with Nietzsche. But don't you think
I didn't know you were.
I'm pretty well into that too.
Well,
I
good.
enjoy
Well,
that.
okay,
But
well-
I really feel like that that Nietzsche was just copying a lot of Aristotle, and Aristotle was copying a lot of Plato, and Plato got all his stuff from Horace. Now, am I wrong?
Well, I'm not qualified to answer that.
Now, see, if you're Socrates, you'd just ask a question.
Well, there are people much more educated than us that debate these issues all the time.
They don't know either.
That's correct.
They don't know either.
That's correct. But I think the important thing is the inquiry and the ability to look into it. But I'm sort of, I don't label myself. I don't want to be labeled. But I think very freely. And I'm somewhat in the existentialist philosophy. And as Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. I believe that the ability to question things, question authority, and it sounds inconsistent with my job as a prosecutor because I enforced authority, but I think it's very vital. And so I just don't want to get too far afield here.
That is a bit of a controversy because you have to working for the DA, you had to follow the rules because these are the rules that we've set up.
You do, and but you got to remember what is justice, and the primary goal of a prosecutor is to seek justice and not merely convict somebody. Seek justice and not merely convict. So if you're seeking justice, you have to take very strong philosophical stands at times, and you have to have the moral fortitude to stand up to enormous criticism. You get criticism from the victim. You get criticism from the public. You get criticism from law enforcement at times. And I work well with them, but you get criticism. They all have a very strong feeling. For example, I had to prosecute a death penalty case in West Tennessee, and the state versus Barber. They can look it up if they want to. It's a reported decision. And I told the DA I worked for, they hadn't had a conviction of death penalty in years there, well, ever in Darren Lake County, right on West Tennessee on the Mississippi. And I said, the only way I will do this, and this guy was bad now, rotten, bad.
Bad news.
Bad news, real bad news. A bad murder, terrible. I've seen a lot of terrible murders. But I said, back then they didn't have life without parole, so I said, if you'll let me offer him life plus 50 years consecutive, and I'll do it in writing in a letter to his two attorneys, which were appointed by the court, I will go ahead and prosecute it. And he said, do it. And I did, and the dummy turned it down. And he received the death penalty. It went through all the appeals, all the post-conviction relief, and I'm against the death penalty. I was then, I am now, because it's ineffective.
I'm really against it myself as well.
I am. It's ineffective, it doesn't work. He sat in prison for years and then died of natural causes.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, that's what happened it helped me cope with it better. I have been appointed on some of those cases too.
Had you ever been special appointed? Was that what they special appointed by By the DA's office?
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. As a defense attorney, I've been a defense attorney too for a period of time because I worked with Charlie Corn, and but you have to be death penalty qualified, as they say.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't just appoint somebody with no experience, and sometimes they'll appoint somebody with a lot of experience and somebody with less experience, but it's a very ineffective method. If you want to argue on philosophical terms, you can do that, but just on practical terms, it's that most countries in the world don't have the death penalty, and a lot of the states don't have it now. A lot of them do not have it.
Is there any statistics?
Well, let me finish. And the reason they don't have it is because they're maturing. If you look at European countries, now the Soviet Union has it, China has it, of course North Korea has it. If you go to some of the Arab countries, but we're a very young country in terms of world history. And as we mature, and people say, well, that's the Northeast, we're in the South. If you want, in Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Arkansas, the southern states tend to, and some of the western states still are a little behind, but I think it's fading away. It will go, I think in the next 50 years, probably, I bet there won't even be a federal death penalty. And it's so rarely used.
Anyway, right? I mean,
and it's ineffective, and it's just wrong. It's morally wrong, socially wrong, economically wrong. And I sound like a hypocrite, seeing how I participated in that by prosecuting one, but I learned from that. Mm-hmm. And the more you learn, you have to be humble.
Well, and you hear about all these cases of the Innocence Project finding somebody not guilty.
There have been documented cases.
Convicted on DNA that was fraudulent.
The DNA is a lot better than fingerprints.
What about that?
Fingerprints are just about infallible.
What about that touch DNA?
Touch DNA. Well, here's what we had. I worked quite a few cold case files even after I retired, and we have different types of DNA. Touch DNA, if you used a straw, and mitochondrial DNA have advanced so far, and it's just about infallible. And you've got to remember, when you use that kind of DNA, you may have a state lab that does it, and then they send it to another independent lab that does it, and they've got to get the same results.
So it's not like they just send it down here to
it's a very sophisticated
double check. I guess that's why it takes a little while.
It does take a while, but
okay. But if it is infallible,
is it what?
If it's really accurate?
Well, it's one more thing a jury can consider.
Okay, so why don't they go?
It's the totality of the facts in a case that matter, and they can disregard it and the other thing is now you have experts. Lawyers can't give opinions. If you're testifying, you might be able to give an opinion on construction as an expert because you're an expert in that field.
Yeah.
But the defense will call in highly qualified experts in DNA, and they will testify about the test if they can find anything. And the jury considers all that. It's one thing they consider, and usually in those cases, it's not the only evidence the prosecutor has.
So it's not like we can go through all the jails, check everybody's DNA against the DNA they have.
You need to remember, they don't have to check everybody's DNA because if you're booked into prison, they usually, and I know I've been out of this a little while, but even while I was working, they did a buccal swab. And it's just a swab of your saliva. And they used to test people during the HIV crisis for that. I know usually they test for things contagious, hepatitis or something, maybe TB. So those are on file. So your DNA is on file if you've been convicted of a felony,
see.
most likely,
Yeah.
in a database. So if you have, I've had a case where a guy cut himself going in a window, doing a burglary, and left just a little bit of blood. And this is in the early stages before the touch DNA, but they had a good sample. Mm-hmm. And they were able to correlate that to the fact he was a convicted felon and his DNA profile was on file. So that's this science has expanded exponentially since I left because it's just so much more refined. And so I think it's anything that leads you to the truth is good.
A totality of,
Yes.
that's a good word.
The totality of circumstances in any case is very important. And if it leads to the truth, that's good. And it can exonerate people as well as convict them. Mm-hmm. And it does all the time. Mm-hmm. And when, the press, they dismiss a charge. Some guy, average American out here in court, they dismiss it because the DNA didn't match. You don't see all that publicity.
No.
And that's one of the sad things about our system. When you're exonerated, you don't get much credit. But when you're convicted, much publicity. When you're convicted, you get a lot of publicity. So it is not a perfect system, obviously. And my biggest fear, and it keeps me awake at night sometimes, is that I might have convicted somebody that was innocent. And that's another argument against the death penalty.
That's what
and it has happened. It
Sure.
has happened.
Sure.
And it is not a deterrent. In the early 1900s, 1800s, in Europe, in the 1800s, when any theft carried the death penalty, pickpockets went to a hanging more than any other place because people were so fixated on that gallows.
Yeah.
Or that guillotine.
They wanted another dopamine or something.
And they'd pick your pocket, and they could have gotten the same thing for it. That's how much a deterrent it is.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, so many of the people that commit these torture murders and things like that are mentally ill, beyond, truly insane. And if they didn't have the mens rea, what we call criminal culpability, criminal mind, state of mind, criminal intent, it's inhumane to punish them for that.
Yeah,
we need to study them and learn more from them, and we could. And and that's another factor. There's a million factors why we shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I was watching an interview with that Berkowitz guy, the son of Sam. I was watching that over the weekend.
I remember he used a 44 Special Charter Arms revolver, and they got him on parking tickets. I remember that case quite well. He had
He's still alive. They did an interview with Michael Francese's did an interview with him, and he just said that he really doesn't know why he did that. He just flipped out.
It has no motive. That's what made it so hard to solve. He would go up to a car with typically couples, and shoot them with that 44 Special.
It was not even any robbery, right?
Yeah, and they accidentally got him on parking tickets. He had about, I think, 200 or so parking tickets.
He said that when he was in his mid-20s, if you'd have told him he'd have done that, he'd said, "You're crazy."
Well, the thing is, I'm not a psychiatrist, and I don't have the training, but I've had a lot of them on the witness stand, and people are sometimes criminally insane, and you can't. I think it'd be better to study them than.
He attributes his problems with the fact that he was told when he was 4 that he was adopted and that his mother died. And in his early 20s, he found out that she wasn't dead. And from the time he was 4 till he was early 20s, they say when you're 4 or 5 years old, you think problems are your fault.
I don't know. I'm not qualified to answer that. That's beyond my I don't have any expertise in anything, but that's beyond the realm of my even making a.
You've enjoyed, did you enjoy being a lawyer or working for the DA's office? Which was more?
Well, a lawyer, I am a lawyer, and I enjoyed working for Charlie Corn probably more than anybody I worked for, because he was probably one of the smartest men I've ever known. Mm-hmm. And I've worked for a lot of DAs, don't get me wrong, but that was a really good period of my life, because he gave me freedom. He gave everybody, Wayne Carter, all of us had freedom to operate. He worked for a DA, and he was elected too, but it wasn't the same. You know, he went to Duke, and then went to Vanderbilt Law School and was on the Law Review, and was editor. Or associate editor or something like that. But anyway, had a really good education, and he was in school during a very conservative period. Elizabeth Dole was his classmate.
Mm-hmm. Is that right?
And ran, Bob Dole.
Bob Dole.
So he was a very, and we have a good public defender now, and so I enjoyed that very much, and I was at home, and that's the thing that meant the most to me. I worked at a lot of different places in the state, and because I wanted to do that particular task, and I gave up a lot doing it economically, because I had to rent an apartment somewhere, and it's just. But I'm here at home, and I'm glad to be home, and. All those people on both sides of the equation, whether they are defending or prosecuting, are officers of the court. And they have a very high duty to the court. And I think we have good prosecutors right now, and have had. I just, it's a subject I'm not really the best one to ask about, because I've been kicked around.
What I find fault with our system is they'll arrest a guy and find some marijuana on him, and they get him for resisting. They'll stack these issues.
Stack the charges.
And it was just simply one arrest.
Well, let me explain. At the first of this, I listed things that prosecutors deal with. You make the public mad. And one of those was you make the officers mad. Mm-hmm. And I think most officers know, and the DA may correct a lot of this, but right now I'm mad. I'm pissed off because this guy's treated me like dirt. He said bad things about my mother, mm-hmm. and they're human too. And sometimes anger gets the best of them, or they're just going to load him up. And they do. And what it takes to be guilty of resisting is not a great deal. It doesn't mean you have to start a fight with the officer.
No, it can be as little as what?
Well, let's give you an example. If you're stopped on a traffic offense, something everyone can relate to, because just about everybody's been pulled over.
Well, sure.
You're nervous. The officer comes up, and he's going to cite you. Well, you have to sign the ticket. Now, if you say, I don't think I'm guilty, I'm not signing the ticket,
right.
He's probably going to say, well, you have to sign the ticket or I will have to arrest you. And then he'll say, get out of the car, and then you get even more angry.
Yeah.
And then officers have to follow a protocol. Please turn around, put your hand behind your back. You start doing that and this, then he'll usually tell you, if you don't cooperate, I might have to arrest you for resisting arrest.
Yeah.
So the next thing is, you tell him where to go. You know somebody, you're going. Yeah. You get your cell phone out. You're going to call your lawyer. Well,
you resisted arrest.
That's all it takes.
But would the DA say, "Oh, that's not resisting arrest"? Throw that one out.
Okay. In many cases, yes. The one thing a DA has that the defense doesn't have or anyone else has is absolute discretion, almost absolute. I mean, you can't fire a DA. You could have maybe impeached one or something.
It'd be hard, wouldn't it?
He's a constitutional officer elected by the people, typically for 8-year terms. A little different right now when you have this situation in locally, but that's a traditional term and statutory term. So they have enormous discretion, and they have to use it well. And they try to get feedback from everyone, because somebody might say, well, this is obviously a murder. And you start getting all the evidence, forensic evidence, interviews of people, history, phone records, internet communications, all kinds of, how many cell phone information. And you look at all this, and there's nothing there. I mean, there's nothing there that you can present to a jury of 12 people and get a conviction. And so you have to say, well, we're declining prosecution. And you receive a lot of criticism, and it takes a courageous DA to say, it's not here. And it also takes a courageous DA to say, well, it's a difficult case, but we believe in the defendant is guilty.
Or there's enough evidence to check.
It's always the evidence,
Yeah.
because questions of fact are decided by juries. Judges only decide questions of law. And when they instruct the jury and they take that document back to the jury room with them, it's strictly the law. And the facts make the case. The law doesn't necessarily make the case. The law's already there. The facts make the case. And the judge doesn't decide the facts, the jury does. And if they don't see them there, you've got a big problem. And I do not believe in trying difficult, unprosecutable cases for the sole purpose of appeasing the public.
Or revenge, or whatever.
Yeah, and coming up and saying, then I was a brave prosecutor, I prosecuted this case.
Yeah.
I knew it was weak,
Yeah.
but I knew what the public wanted. That's baloney.
That's baloney.
Yeah, the prosecutor has to be it is a lonely job, let me tell you. And if you're an assistant, it can be a lonely job, because I've had many cases where it's left up to me. And then you've got to stand up in front of the court, and you'll have a lot of victims advocates and a lot of people on both sides of the family, and you have to make an announcement in public of what you're doing. And
in our community, their relative or something. There's got to be some connection.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. You still have to be accountable.
But it matters on the point of it's his hard job.
Oh, it matters now if you, most people, if you've known them all your life, and they say, well, you screwed up on that, they'll forgive you.
Yeah.
But you have to take a lot of hits. And it's not one of those things where you put a notch in the grip of your gun every time you get a conviction at all.
That's bad news.
But I have seen it. Usually occurs in young prosecutors, overzealous. They want to make a name for themselves.
They're just itching to get into court.
They want to be not many people in the paper anymore, but on one of your programs or something like that. Be on the evening news. They don't do that much anymore, but I used to be on the news in West Tennessee all the time. I go home and I got really sick of it, because I was in a crime-ridden area. You take Memphis and all that area, there's a lot going on out there. Mm-hmm. And you have to and the other thing people don't understand about prosecutors or defense attorneys, but particularly prosecutors in the sense that they have to make decisions fairly quick. Because with the exception of cold case files, where, you go back and look, a crime occurs, they gotta decide what they're gonna charge, get the defendant in court. They may not always have every bit of evidence in, because some of this evidence takes months and months.
Yeah,
You're talking about
DNA
DNA. Prosecutors are obligated to provide any mitigating evidence to the defense. And that is, just cut all that. Cut it all out.
Yeah.
I'm editing a little bit myself. Go ahead and ask me something. Let's get off,
All
get
right.
something else.
All
I'm
right.
getting tired.
Well, I'll say I had Wayne Carter on there. He said he really enjoyed working with you.
Oh, I love Wayne.
He's a great guy, isn't he?
Yes, Wayne is a colonel in the Army.
Preacher.
He's a colonel, a preacher. He went to Desert Storm. I
Yeah.
remember when he left and he came back. He's self-made. He's a referee in football. He loves
That's
to do
right.
that.
That's right. He says
He's one of the best people I've known in my life.
he really is.
And
He's
when I was in
top-notch.
Siskin, he and Judy Randolph, one of the other important people in my life, she's an investigator, ran our office really quite well, extremely well. Visited me at Siskin, and I appreciate it because I was in bad shape. I didn't think I was going to walk.
I remember when you had that wreck. You see
Yes.
what was Roger was driving. Is that right?
Yeah, I was.
God.
Roger Hanger and I and Richard Fisher were on our way. Usually on Saturday, we went to the Mountain City Club in Chattanooga. And a bunch of old lawyers were there. People know. Jerry Summers was there usually. Copper, several other friends, and Phil Lawrence came in periodically with his dog, and we'd have a brunch. And Hanger had diabetes. He didn't like to talk about it, but he did. And we were on our way, and he became unconscious driving my new Bronco, which had 1,700 miles or so on it. I mean, it was brand new. He wanted to drive it. Fisher sitting in the back, and we were going on right about White Oak Mountain on the interstate. He became unconscious. I mean, totally out of it. So I was driving with my left hand.
Oh man. To God,
We
trying
went
to
bet-
stop
we
the
went bet-
car.
We went between. You talk about, you asked me earlier about post-traumatic stress. They say,
Golly.
the doctors say, you're going to have post-traumatic stress. Don't talk about this. Well, hell, I don't have post-traumatic stress. I'll talk about it. We went between.
How'd you stop the car?
Well, I'm going to tell you. Be patient. It didn't take very long. Two 18-wheelers went like this. We went between them. I thought the rearview mirrors were going to get knocked off. I'm driving the car with my left hand. He's unconscious. Fisher's in the back trying to, well, what's going on? Give instructions.
Yeah.
And we got
And
between-
Roger's big, right? You're having to reach around him.
No, I'm in the passenger seat. He's in the driver's seat. Fisher's in the back. Richard Fisher used to be the district attorney here. Well, I had to get the car off the road. We went all the way into Georgia like that. Me driving, Hanger unconscious, Fisher trying to, hey, we're not going to Mountain City Club. I said, dumbass, can't you see he's unconscious? And he didn't realize Hanger was like this. His head was tilted over. He was out of it in a coma, a diabetic coma. And it had never happened before. He didn't take insulin, but he did take some other things. I don't know, metformin or something like that to try to help it.
Yeah.
It was just a sudden, I thought he'd had a stroke. And we came to a rest area, and there was a ravine and all these big barricades. And I swapped those barricades trying to slow it down because I couldn't get the car under control. It was a new car. I hadn't driven it much myself.
Yeah.
And we went down a ravine, and it damaged my back.
Did it flip the car?
It totaled the car, and it actually killed Hanger. Not that day, but he died just a couple weeks later in the hospital. It almost killed me. And Fisher was in the back seat, and I'm mad at him to this day. There were weeds everywhere. And Fisher and I used to fish a lot, and he can't stand chiggers.
Yeah.
And the car was totaled now. He got out in the weeds. He said, you know, you've got any insect repellent? These chiggers, I can't stand them. And I gave him the worst cussing. And every time I talked to him, which is frequently, and he wanted some insect repellent. And then he realized that he wasn't hurt. We were hurt really bad. And they called 2 ambulances. They took Hanger to Erlanger. They took me to Park Ridge because I'd had previous back surgery there. And it was from there on, for me, physically, it was downhill. I wasn't even able to go to Hanger's funeral or anything. I wasn't able to get out of bed. I thought they said, you will never walk.
Oh, I remember.
I thought I was going to die, and I came pretty close.
I think me and you and Hanger had lunch like the week before.
Yes.
And he was just...
He was fine.
Yeah, he was fine. But Alan said, don't never let Hanger drive.
Well, Hanger wrecked Alan's Porsche years ago.
Yeah. And he never forgot.
Before Alan was as wealthy as he is now, but he was still doing pretty well. Yeah. And he had a new Porsche, and he said, well, Hanger, you can drive it, but if you wreck it, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And Hanger drove it, and as expected, Hanger wrecked it, and he paid for it. He paid Alan back. You can ask Alan Jones.
Is that right?
Yeah, you can ask Alan Jones. Hanger paid him back for the car. But Hanger raced at Sebring.
Oh, he was almost like in the Olympics, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was. He liked speed.
Yeah.
So he was in the bobsleds when Harold Cosell was there at Lake Placid, and there are very few people that even do the luge.
Luge. Yeah.
The luge.
Yeah.
I call it a bobsled because I'm a redneck.
Yeah.
But and he did that. He raced boats.
You know what?
He spent a lot of money on racing.
You know what I liked about Hanger? Of course, is somehow or another, he made you feel like he liked you. Maybe even if he didn't, but he had a way of making you feel like he liked you. Was I wrong?
Let me tell you about, I don't want to go into too much. I wasn't friends with Hanger till later in life, because growing up, he's older than me. But I remember when his father was killed in a plane crash. They went to Europe, and it damaged the social register of Atlanta somewhat because they chartered a big jet. They went over there to, I think on the High Museum, they have a plaque for them. The people on that plane, all of them were killed. He was coming back. He helped start, and it helped me a lot physically and everything, the YMCA.
Yeah.
Which is now a school, which I hate. I wish we could revitalize that and get it back where the old armory was there,
right,
part of on Spring Street there. And I went there a lot before even high school, and he got that going, and had a pool. I haven't been in it in years. I think the city schools have it now.
I had swimming lessons there one day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great place. And the new Y is too. I'm a member, my wife and I are, but I don't go, but she does periodically. But Hanger came from a really fine family. And that just, he was well educated, had a lot going for him, but that devastated that family a lot.
Yeah, that was sort of the beginning of things getting sour, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. There's no question
Did he
about it.
get?
And now my good friend, and I want to say this, one of the probably next to Walter Hunt, retired detective and friend of mine, still friends, David Tinsley lives next door to him. And David...
That's right, the detective.
Yes, and we worked well together. He helped me with a major case over when I was in Middle Tennessee, and they let him come over there and help me, and we solved it, and we prosecuted it. He later went to work for Drug Enforcement Administration, and now has a very, but the irony of it all, I know he would not approve of some of the things that happened with Hanger's younger brother and stuff that happened through the years. But he lives next door to the Hanger house, which is now occupied by someone else, and has fixed it up quite well. He bought it from Gray Epperson.
Yeah, wasn't that Donna Mason's brother? Is that right? Donna Mason's brother?
Who?
David Tinsley? I believe it was his sister was Donna Tinsley.
May have been.
Yeah.
But he was a really good, and still is a really fine person and a person I respect.
What do you do? Well, how do you deal with? Was retirement hard for you?
Yes, it's still hard.
That's what Wayne's struggling with, retirement.
Yeah, Wayne has talked to me about going in and taking some cases, appointed cases. Mm-hmm. They would be criminal cases. And I'm thinking about it, and the problem is I can't stand up to object. And lawyers stand up a lot in court. My cognitive ability is sufficient to do it, but I don't know whether I can do it physically. But I've got physical therapists helping me, and I'm getting better every day.
But you can hold up a paddle, says object.
Well, I think they give me a little leniency, but you don't realize there's a lot more to just being in court. There's a lot of preparation that goes on. So, but I could handle the stress, because you can't handle any more stress than I've had. I thought I wasn't going to make it. So I'm mentally, I could do it. Physically, it would be a challenge.
When did you retire? What age?
I worked. Let's see, I drew Social Security at 66, because at 66, you could make all you wanted to. Mm-hmm. And then I worked, I'd have to go back about 70.
Is that right? Yeah. Are you glad you did, or if you had to do it over again, would you quit at 70?
No, I love 60? My work.
You were happy?
Yeah, that's why I kind of want to go back and do a few cases to keep me mentally sharp and just stay in it. I think it'd be good for me, and I may do it. If I can get through this summer and get back walking well, not well, but...
Well, you walked in here.
Yeah, but I used a cane, and I had my brother help me.
Yeah.
You can't...
What do you think about having a brother named George McCoin? Boy, wouldn't that be an honor to have a brother like George?
Nathan McCoin.
George Nathan.
Named after Nathan Bedford Forrest, which is not too popular. Yeah. They moved his bust out of the Capitol, but a lot of people in our family are named after Nathan Bedford Forrest. Bedford McCoin. Nathan
so is Forrest Gump, right?
Yeah, and George's son is Nathan McCoin.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you look at Nathan Bedford Forrest, Rommel, the best general that Germany had, of course, at the end, Hitler got rid of him, more or less, but in his African campaign, studied Nathan Bedford Forrest to learn tactics. And the German military academies were far above West Point and learning tactics, because they've been fighting wars a lot longer.
Yeah, they were more into it.
And so anyway, I'm not trying to praise Nathan Bedford Forrest, and I don't promote slavery or anything like that, but it is part of our heritage.
Whenever you read a story in the newspaper or see something on television about somebody getting arrested, you naturally assume they're guilty. Unless the story's about you or someone you love, then you'll think differently. And you'll want a lawyer who will defend you. My name's Scott Canavis. If you or someone you love has been charged with a crime, call me. I'll return your phone calls, I'll work on your case, and I will defend you.
Does you going to our investment club meeting? Is that this week? That party? Is
Yes,
it a
I
party?
did. I went.
Is it Wednesday night or Thursday night?
Our investment club, was this for the program?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay. I believe it's this Thursday, and I plan on going. My wife plans on going.
So my wife's going too. What time is it? 6 or 7? I can't remember.
I think it's 6.
I'm not a big party goer guy, but got to do something, don't we?
Well, I enjoyed the investment club because I thought, well, you got a lot of luminaries here. People made a lot more money than I've ever had. Maybe I can learn something from them. And I learned.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
I just end up talking to you and George.
Well, you know what I
Ted
learned?
Moss, what? That they don't.
I learned they don't know any more than I do.
Boy, they don't do it.
They don't know
say
any more than we know.
They say the secret to success is a good set of parents.
I think I had that.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. And the people I grew up with, all my friends nearly, we had a good set of parents. And it didn't matter what your daddy did or people that, if you were a rhymer and your family was wealthy because they were in the stove business, or your daddy gave haircuts like Yank Matthews did for Phil, one of my good friends who's dead now, at Westside Barbershop. We all did the same things. We spent the night with each other. I didn't know anything about money, and nobody else did. We would all ride horses. We would all do mostly the same sports. Now, there was a distinction, I guess, at some point, but we didn't know it as kids. And
one thing I noticed about you and George, neither one of you seemed to give anybody more credit because of their social standing. You're more apt to talk to the waiter or the waitress. You know what I'm saying? And George is the same.
And I've always been that way. I had the misfortune, and now I will say this, my son went to Macaulay. He wanted to go, and he was a day student, and he was president of his class, did very well, National Merit Scholar, and went to Columbia University and all that.
Yeah.
And then Vanderbilt Law School. But I went to Baylor, and my mother was the reason for that. I did not want to go, and they sent me, and I did pretty well on the entrance test to get in there. And they put me in with people that were older than me. I'd just come out of the 8th grade, and I could not come home any more often than somebody from California. The rules were strict. I could go home, and I did a couple of times with somebody that was a day student. So I became good friends with French Fraser. I went on the Boy Scout Jamboree with him earlier that year, and this was in 1959. And he lived on Lookout Mountain. I think Scotty Brasco bought his house. I don't know who it is. It's one of those really nice ones on the brow, you know. I got to go home with him some, but the people they put me in with, there were 3 of us in a 2-man room. I had the top bunk, and they wanted me to, it was a military school, and we had to march every day. I had a M1 rifle. It rained one day, and we went in the gym. They put out our army blankets, and we had to take our rifles apart. And these guys had parts get everywhere. I took mine apart and put it back together, and they had old retired military people running that part of the school. And he said, "How'd you do that, Cadet Private McCoin?" I said, "Well, sir, I have one at home." And he said, "Do it again." And he said, "Are all parts accounted for?" And he kind of looked at me and said, "One's missing, sir." And he said, "What is that?" I said, "It's the firing pin." And he took me in the office, and he had a little box. He said, "Well, we had a student discharge a weapon on the parade field, thought it was cute." And I said, "What happened to him?" He said, "He's not here anymore." But anyway, they put, I liked certain aspects of it, but there was a lot of hazing. They wanted me to polish shoes. They wanted me to polish brass. I was living with students. One of them was a postgraduate. He should have been in college.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any friends.
Sure.
And I had my horse and my dog. So I went 1 year there. I didn't like it. And Dale Watson, my good friend who died, he was a wonderful pilot. And could fly an airplane and flew in the Navy. He went to TMI. They sent him home. Hanger went to TMI. He said, he wrote home there, he said, "Every day I want to come home. I can't stand this. I'm coming home if I'm going to flunk every course." And they finally brought him home. I didn't like military school. I didn't like students telling me what to do that were stupid, you know. And I could handle the physical part of it. I loved my science teacher. I was homesick. I was living with guys that ought to be in college. And back then, they played postgraduates. It was a big deal even when I was in high school that Macaulay, Baylor, some of the military schools would play people that ought to be playing, you know, in the university against high school students. And so anyway, I had a bad start there, but I came home. I did fine.
Your son does well, right?
Yes, my son, like I said, he went to Macaulay, and at first I said, I'm not going to do that to him.
Maybe it was different.
Oh, he was a day student. If I had been a day student, and
instead of living there,
I used to get up early in the morning and drive him down there, and then finally we got a carpool going, and then they had enough students from Macaulay, Baylor, GPS, and whatever. They had buses going back and forth. We took them to the Hardys on 25th, and the bus would come and go. And then he wanted to play lacrosse, be in extracurricular activities. He wanted to be in the West Side Astoria play. I said, "What are you going to play?" He said, "A shark." You know, he had a minor role, but you had to be there.
Yeah.
So you go there at 7 or 8 o'clock to pick him up again. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And
well, they say he's really successful.
he is. He was president of his class. I'm not going to brag about him too much, but he was very smart. And we visited a bunch of schools. And he wanted to go to the Ivy League, so he went to Columbia. And we visited him a lot in New York. His wife, Elizabeth Corn, went to Fordham. She moved to Fordham, and they were there. I figured they would get married, and they did. Then he went to Vanderbilt Law School, and he got Macaulay's, right about the time I was in the hospital a few years ago, they gave him the Distinguished Graduate Award.
Is that right?
It's a very hard award to get. And while I was trying a murder case in Knoxville, he was a guest lecturer at UT Law School. So I wanted to go in, and I took off. Well, he was doing it in the evenings in a particular subject, and I went in and watched him one time. But I think he worked for Miller and Martin in Chattanooga and then Coca-Cola saw that he did their work well, and they hired him. So he's a Coke guy.
Does he live in Atlanta?
No, he lives in Dallas.
I think that's where Kim Randolph's sons work. I think he works for Coca-Cola in Atlanta, maybe.
Maybe. No, well, he goes to Atlanta all the time. He travels constantly.
I bet they
worry
run
about it. I
similar
worry
stuff.
about how much he travels. And
Was he travel by plane?
He flies, and he travels constantly. They have it's a huge company, Coca-Cola is, you know, it's been here since the beginning of time almost, any recent time. And he likes it, and I think he'll stay with it a while. I've got a grandson there that is applying he wants to go to University of Chicago, and I hope he will.
What's he going to be?
He's smart. He's scary smart. It really scares me sometimes. I think he can do anything he wants to. He's interested in economics, and they have the Kellogg School of Economics there. And his other choice is MIT and Columbia. Now, all of them are hard to get into, but he really likes University of Chicago the best, and I. The
McCoins have always been big on education.
Yeah, my father was. He said, if you file bankruptcy, they can take everything you own, but they can't take your education.
Well, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's one thing nobody can ever. He reminded me of that. He emphasized it so much with me, but my sister and my brother did better, I think. But anyway, I'm here. Yeah, but we emphasized it a lot, and we were fortunate. He devoted much of what he made to saying that we got it, and it was a worthwhile expenditure, I think. And I have tried to. My son does the same thing, and his wife Elizabeth. So, education is vital.
Let me ask you this: you going to? You say I'm gonna run. You going to B&B Marina to pick up some food?
Well, you're going to drive me.
Yeah, I'll drive you home.
Yeah, I've got.
Have you got a to-go order already ordered?
I did. They have a new thing now. You can order a Sunday dinner. They'll fix it for you. I'm having stuffed flounder, and I think it'll be very good. I got one for my wife.
What do you have with it?
Well, sides.
You
want me to do an advertisement for them? I will do it because
it
is a wonderful thing.
I'm thinking about how much is it for a plate?
I don't know. I don't ask.
You what they do? Just charge your card?
I put it on my credit card and pay my credit card off every month. I have no idea.
What kind of sides did you get?
You get more than you can eat. I got my Thanksgiving dinner there. My son came and we all got together and
Ryan runs a good business, doesn't he?
Ryan Cortez is a fine man and my neighbor and runs a good business. And the chef there is a chef. I would not call her a cook. She might get offended. And she can make anything you want. And I think you're going to see a lot more of them. So
whatever Ryan does, he does in a big way.
Well, I hope he's doing well. And I try to support them because they're close by and I want them to be successful. So,
Mac, I've enjoyed it, buddy.
I have too. And I appreciate you having me.
Hey, I'm glad you came.
I hope I didn't offend anyone.
Hey, if they're still watching, I'll be surprised with you.
All right.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you.